I'm gonna get a headset. It's the AV bridge.
The mic, here's the mic.
Yeah. You don't really want He hasn't replied.
Check, check.
Okay, we're good. All right. And that being the case, we'll call this the meeting of the Montoursville Area School District Board of Directors to order on this Tuesday, May 9th, 2023. The time is 7:08 p.m. I would ask the secretary to call roll.
Mr. Albert is absent this evening. Mr. Badger.
Here.
Dr. Berry. Here. Dr. LeBron.
Here.
Dr. Mathers. Here. Mr. Schimmel.
Here.
Mr. Snow.
Here.
Mr. Palmer.
Here.
And Mr. Young.
Here. Yeah, I'd make note to the public that prior to the meeting tonight, we had an executive session for personnel. And now I would invite all present to rise and join me in the pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Republic stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving along with our agenda, are there from the table, are there any recognitions or presentations? Okay, we'll move now to the student representative. He's not over there, so we can move right along now to the reading of the minutes. We have the approval requested on the regular meeting of April 11th, those minutes, and the work session of April 25. We have a motion to approve those minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
And I take it no corrections or anything like that? Okay, in that case, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, and now for our prior presentation, we'd invite Pastor Larry Leland to come forward and give us some good words.
Thank you. I come not on behalf of myself or on behalf of Faith United Methodist Church where I serve, but I come because I'm a part of the Montoursville area ministerium made up of communities of faith from around the district. And it is always a pleasure to be here. And in this Teacher Appreciation Week, in just a few weeks from graduation, it's my honor to be here to pray for those important persons. So if you would feel so led, will you join me in an attitude of prayer? God, in this season, in this week, where we take time to show appreciation to our teachers, we give you thanks for all of those women and men who have answered and continue to answer a vocation in areas of education. From paraprofessionals to teachers to administrators, and to those who come alongside those professionals in areas of support, we give you thanks for the countless hours, the doubtless dedication, and the heart, soul, blood, sweat, and tears that they put into coming generations. We give you thanks. And we pray that not only 1 week a year, but throughout their careers and even beyond, they might know that they are truly appreciated. And loving God, we thank you for all who will graduate during this season. You've blessed them during their years in school with wisdom, with friendships, with growing skill sets. And you continue to challenge them to make this world a better place because of what they have learned in halls like these. We ask that you would help them to look forward to their next steps, whether that's continuing in their education, serving beyond the local area, or entering the work world. Particularly help those who are seeking employment to find a job suitable to their education, to their skill set, and to provide for themselves and their families. Give each of them a faith and a sense of purpose in their next steps. Show them how to serve others in effective ways. And may they always be aware that in everything they do, they will find fulfillment if they are doing your will. That you will be with them always, and that you will bring to completion the good work that you have begun in them during their time here among us. Amen.
Hey, Pastor. Now we have John Raybert, and he has a Days of Remembrance essay contest presentation for us.
Good evening. My name is Ray Huff, 1711 Pentridge Cove, Williamsport, formerly 100 North Arch Street, Montoursville. It's over there. Good evening, Mr. Schimmel, members of the board, Mr. Tarmina, faculty, administration, honored guests, and parents. Never stop asking why. That's the motto of the United States Holocaust Museum, and if you haven't been there, you need to go there because it can show what can happen when people are marginalized and people are put down. But the Holocaust was the systematic murder of more than 6 million Jews rather, which was initiated prior to World War II and continued through the war. The Holocaust is a prime example of how hatred can cause horrific crimes and threatens society's values and security. The Nazis and their collaborators also killed millions of others they considered inferior or undesirable, such as Roma and Sinti, homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses, and people with disabilities. On October 7, 1980, the 96th Congress passed Public Law 96-388, which established the United States Holocaust Memorial Council. Annually in school and in military communities, Days of Remembrance programs are created to recognize the Holocaust. It is our mission to support essay writing competitions that foster a perpetual remembrance of the Holocaust. My partner, Cliff Readers, is down in Lancaster. We normally accompany each other for things like that, and we've been here before. Says so much about Montoursville. Tonight, we honor 7 winners in this year's contest. They recognize the horrors and hatred and marginalization and what those things can do to the world. They studied the diary of Anne Frank and took the message to heart. I'm so proud to represent the Days of Remembrance Board to present the awards for the students. As I call your name, please come up, see Mr. Raybert, and he will give you what you came for. We will have some certificates mailed later, but since the meeting was kind of early in our schedule, I had to go to Purity Candy yesterday, pick up some candy for my wife who found out I was going there and get the checks. Bad timing. Okay, so I'm proud to represent the board to present the awards to the students. These students received honorable mention certificates, and each of them receives a check for $100. Austin Davidson is not here. Hayden Ferguson. Alex Martinyuk. Dylan Saul. The third place winner receiving a check for $150, Elias Rodriguez. Second place winner receiving a check for $250, Becca Teftitiller. And the first place winner, notice it was a sweep by McCall. First place winner, Rowan Fortin, $500. And I have news for you. You'll be going to high school next year. The contest is also for high school students. So, keep them up. And I don't think there's any rule about winning like 4 or 5 times. Do it. Okay, now we all know something like this just doesn't happen all by itself. Students get inspired by teachers. The Days of Remembrance Board would like to recognize a very special teacher who continues to give his students a challenge and opportunity. Now, I did ask a couple of students how they would describe Mr. Ravert in one word. But Mr. Ravert continues to give his students a challenge and opportunity. This was done outside of class. So we'd like to recognize him on behalf of the DOR board. It's my honor to present Mr. James Ravert with this gift to Otto's. Thank you for the time to celebrate with some excellent examples from the C.E. McCall Middle School and show why the Montoursville Area School District represents the best in educational opportunity. Thank you. Mr. Ravert, the floor is yours.
And I'm more comfortable about it. Just to brag on them a bit, I would Mr. Hunt, sticks around the county, all the middle school and those. It's the best. Going with an awful lot of hard work and revising and rethinking over again, but we didn't give up. Grown and back up. This natural way for the community is going to help them. It's a very special, I think, in the Amtrak and all thoughts that we have show that it's right for the athletics. Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
You do. Curtis won't.
Oh, that's good.
You know that's true.
Just abandoned his laptop.
And he won't be able to hide. There'll be some right here.
All right. Move on now to the next part of the agenda for the public comment section of the meeting this evening. Residents and taxpayers are invited to comment on matters of concern, official action by the board, deliberation before the board. Members of the public will be provided one unpaused 3-minute time frame to speak to us. So if you come to the mic and tell us who you are and where you live.
Jack Callahan, 113 North Arch Street, Tourism. Some people get that mixed up with South Arch Street. I was voting, lived at North Arch Street, and I was voting at South Arch Street. And I wanted to talk before the big crowd, and I want to say I'm the oldest person here. I got you by a year, Dale.
Yes, you do, Jack.
Okay. All right. I wanted to talk to Mr. Myers and ask him about that thing where I talked last week about having that graduation for people moving from elementary into secondary. I think there should be, I don't know how big that class would be or what it pertains, but they used to have it in the old days. I think they cut it off when it was my turn to graduate from elementary to whatever. And I got 2 strikes against me already. I found out that you people do not use books in your classrooms now. And I just found out tonight that you don't have chalkboards anymore. So I don't know what these teachers do. Whatever, I guess they can get up there and say everything or do anything or whatever. But I want to say I had a teacher that he was big for his age. I mean, big back when people weren't as big as they are now, Mr. Felix. And he could write at the top of the blackboard and the bottom of the blackboard, and they would all turn out. The writing was tremendous. And I don't know if the teachers can do that now. They can't, no blackboards. And I'd also like to mention phys ed, how important that is in our schools. My phys ed teacher told me this might save your life someday. One of my phys ed teachers. I had the best 5 phys ed teachers ever, school and college. My one phys ed teacher was a big-time college football player and a big-time coach. And I had my swimming teacher was, that was when they had a pole with a boxing glove on. And if it looked like you're going to hit the diamond board when you were doing something, they would shove it out there. I never saw them do that, but that's the way it was in that. And I don't know. And I'll tell you another story about he just got honored down in Hughesville, one of my teachers, Myron Feaster. Okay, they had the blackboards back then, and my friend Dave Kasner, he had some form of cancer where his bottom legs, calves were bigger than his upper legs. Well, Dave was getting a paddle and he was on the chalkboard like this, and Myron was flailing away. Well, a friend of mine, Steve Crawford, was in my class, Crow was his nickname. He jumped up on the seat and started to count like this, count how many swings Dave was getting. So Myron turned around and saw him, he says, "All right, Crawford, you're next." I mean, that's the way they did things. And they also did put a 0 on the board, and you had to stick your nose in it if you're chewing gum and stand on your feet. They didn't have the dunce caps, but they had stand in the corner. But that's the way, that's the way the schools were back then. But I don't know, but I mean, that phys ed is very important. They used to have over at the middle school, they used to assign every teacher a task to whether it was shooting a bow and arrow or something. I forget what they called it, intramurals. And I don't know how long that lasted. And phys ed is important. And like I said, I had the best 5 phys ed teachers that I think anybody can have.
Thank you, Jack.
Larry Leland, Brushy Ridge Road. Now I come to speak to you as a parent. And it's just something that I'd encourage the board to consider. Particularly, I'm not sure where we are in the years of a teaching contract. But one of the things that we have experienced as a family this year is it's my understanding that in the current teacher's contract, retiring teachers are not remunerated for unused sick days. And so one of the challenges that presents is that from time to time, a teacher comes to his or her last year of teaching full-time and has a significant number of sick days that they will either not use or they will lose. And so there are teachers who then choose to use a significant number of those days in one school year in order not to lose that remuneration at the end of their teaching career. One of the things that I'd like you to consider is the fact that when that happens throughout a school year, you are indeed paying that teacher many times who is at closer to the top of the pay scale for their time off because it's paid time off as a sick day. And on top of that, you are paying a substitute to take their place. If you considered in upcoming contracts, remunerating teachers who are retiring, even if it was at a reduced level for unused sick days, you would avoid this double paying. Yes, you would pay the new teacher that would eventually take their place. You would pay them for whatever portion of that unused sick time you choose to include. But particularly for students for whom changes in routine are incredibly difficult, having a teacher who is missing approximately a day of school every other week, if not more often, is incredibly disruptive to the learning process, not just for a son like mine who's on the autism spectrum and who hates anything that's out of his routine, but for any student, particularly those who are learning specific subjects that are much easier to learn with consistency in the classroom. So just encourage you to consider that as you think about moving forward. Thank you.
Pastor Leland?
Yes.
I'd just like to address that. That actually was an issue that many contracts ago was addressed. The union wanted a severance, a retirement severance versus the buyback of sick days. And so that was granted. And the rationale for a lot of that was that the buyback of sick days was detrimental to the female teachers who had a chance to use more of their sick days during their employment because of pregnancies and time off after delivery.
Thank you.
So it actually was an accommodation that the board made at that time. So it wasn't that it was something that was taken away or not. So there's a rationale for that, believe it or not.
So for the teachers that I know that may be involved in the union, the next time that contract negotiation happens, I'll make sure that I let them know as well. But just for your perspective from the school board, thank you for listening to that. Thank you.
What else in the room here? We'll go to the online attendees, and if anybody online would like to speak to the board, if you raise your hand electronically, and you'll be able to speak to us.
While we're waiting. Jack, we do use that.
What do you do?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there's other schools that don't use.
I know we do.
You got black.
You got
it.
Okay.
No one
Not-
Okay.
All right. We not seeing any hands being raised online, so now we'll continue with the agenda and move on to the business manager's report. It's a unruly crowd tonight, isn't it?
You've received copies of the treasurer's reports for the period ending April 30th, 2023 for the general fund and cafeteria fund. We are submitting these to the board for your consideration of approval.
Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
No budgetary transfers. You've received copies of the listing of invoices for the general fund and cafeteria fund for the period ending May 9th, 2023. We are submitting these to the board for your consideration of approval and payment.
Check number 64872 on page 35. It's for $491.69. It's to team. I forget what the title of the company was. It's for it's targets. My question is, and I'm guessing it's for our armed security, for qualifying and practicing. Don't they have targets where they go to target practice? Why did we have to buy the targets when we pay for them, time for them at a place?
To offset some of that time that it will cost to go to that place. They have another place they can go. There's no charge. If they're bringing their own target.
Okay,
Plus they need it for qualification.
all right. That's all I got.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, ask the secretary to do a roll call vote on this.
Mr. Badger.
Yeah.
Dr. Berry.
Yes.
Dr. LaCroix.
Yes.
Dr. Mathers.
Yeah.
Mr. Schimmel,
Yes.
Mr. Snell,
Yes.
Mr. Ulmer,
Yes.
and Mr. Young.
Yes.
And do we have a report tonight from the business manager?
Okay. I only printed 15 copies, so. Some of the administration will have to share. I'll wait until everyone gets that copy. Okay, these are the updated projections. Some of this information, we actually just received a final special ed contract at like 4:07 yesterday. So this is hot information off the press. So I was putting this together this afternoon. So we'll start here. I use the same format that I used in the prior presentation. Because I got some feedback that it was simplified, it made it easier to understand. So I continued on with that format here. I'm still giving you the information you had from the prior presentation on here and adding a column. And instead of having a difference column from one year to the next, I included a change column. So you can see the change that has been made since the March meeting. So there's a little bit of change here in the real estate revenue, and this is due to, we got some new tax totals and the new homestead came out. So that plays a little bit of a fluctuation in the current real estate tax revenue, which is not significant, which is just over $3,000. Everything else has stayed approximately the same. And as you can see here, there are no changes in anything on the second page for the local revenues. Everything is looking about the same. I will say with the earned income tax, we have received another month of that. And I'm confident in the 4.1 million that we have budgeted. So I think we should leave it there at this point. So our local revenue will just see a little bit of an increase of about $3,000. Our state revenue, we had a few fluctuations here. Two of the smaller fluctuations are the state share of FICA and the other income from the state. These are our FICA and retirement, Social Security and retirement reimbursements that we receive. As wages change, these numbers fluctuate as well. Our transportation amount received has changed a little bit. And every year, I always use prior year numbers to come up with the following year. So as we're doing that, the number that came in for this year was 506,000. So that increased us $25,887 there. So we do see an increase there. And we see a little bit of a decrease in the property tax allocation. And that was just part of a credit from the Philadelphia income tax that we received. So that changes just a little bit every year. So overall, in the state revenue, we see an increase of $20,306. I should have said during the local revenue, what I was presented there was with no tax increase. And here with the state revenue, we also budget at what we are receiving in the current year. So this does not reflect what the governor proposed. We do not have updates on that. In speaking with business managers around the county and around the state, many of them have chose to stick with what they are currently receiving and doing a budget based on that. Some have used some additional and some have also used the proposal, but I do not think that is safe for us right now. So this is why I have prepared it this way.
Randy, before you move on past the state, when you figure out a projection for the state money that's coming in each year, do you add a little over 3% to what the state money that we got the previous year?
No,
Why not?
because a lot of times it's not even 3%. We have no idea what it is.
Most of the time, the state increases 3% per year school district.
That's not ours. So sometimes it's like $20,000, sometimes it's more, sometimes it's just about even. It just depends, and a lot of factors go into the formula. And with our decreasing population, it plays an effect on that. And we have high numbers in the cyber charter school still right now. So that also plays an effect in that. So that's why I do not. Anything else? Okay, federal revenue, no changes here. Now let's move on to the expenditures. And you'll see that everything's changed a little bit in here except for the other uses of funds. Wages, you see a decrease there. We've had some retirements announced a little bit later. We've had some changes in some personnel, so we are seeing a little bit of a change there, which then is why we saw the decrease in the revenues in the state prior. So about $17,000 in a decrease there. Employee benefits, because of those changes, we've seen some changes in employee benefits, which amount to about $7,200. Professional technical services. So when I was budgeting for the IU contract, I budgeted for about a 6% increase, and actually it came in lower. So it came in lower than what I was projecting, which is a good thing. So we are actually, the number has went down $58,661 there. Purchase property and services went up $500. Other purchase services went down $41,201. The supplies went up a little bit, property went up $15,790. The other objects went up $7,500. So overall, we are seeing the expenditures reduced by $98,397. And this is primarily to the IU contract coming in, some staffing changes, the athletic bids, the paper bids coming in, and other things in that matter is in what we're seeing here. So as we get closer to June, we'll see more numbers coming closer, but we have pretty much everything in now at this time. So any questions there? Okay, move on. So what I did tonight is previously I showed you from no increase all the way up to the index. It was very clear this board has no desire to go up that far. So I just did it in 0.10 increments up to a half mil. So you can see what no increase does, what 0.10, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and 0.5. When I bring this to you at the work session, you have to vote on a preliminary, and I would like to have a direction in which way you would like to go for that preliminary, so I can have that put together for you. Here, what I did is the bottom line is I'm backing out the budgetary reserve. So you can see if we do not spend any of the budgetary reserve, you know, the board doesn't approve anything that is not included already in the budget. Those are what we would be using out of the fund balance. With no tax increase, it's 5,500. With 0.1, it's 472,000. 0.2 is 393. 0.3 is 315,000. 0.4 is 236,000. 0.5 is 157,000, and that is based on my estimates at this point today that I put this together. So I'm providing you that information here. I'll finish up my presentation and then we can come back and get some feedback from everyone there. Here's your fund balance. 5.2 is unassigned there. Your capital account. We're sitting at 6.3 million. And here's your timeline. Tonight, we're reviewing the updates. On May 23rd, we'll adopt the proposed final budget. And on June 13th, we'll adopt the final budget. So let me go back. Dave, I'm going to let you run the show here for a few minutes and see what everyone's thinking.
We'll let the board ask your questions. How's that? Although I do have a question. Am I recalling correctly? There was a time when we had a budgetary reserve that was more like 300,000. Am I recalling correctly or not?
300. I don't think it was ever as low as 300.
Okay.
We had it at 400, which is not
Okay.
following budget.
Okay.
Which is not following board policy. Board policy says that our budgetary reserve needs to be between 2 and 10%. So that's why I was kind of showing you that with it backed out. So you have that clear picture too. But that means that you don't use anything, you know, you don't purchase anything extra.
Some years we have, I guess I'll call it suspicions that there might be a cost out there that's gonna eat into the budgetary reserve. How's your crystal ball this year? Anything possibly looming or who knows? Okay.
Joe.
All right.
But
I know there's been a couple of years we thought something was going to come to fruition and be ready for it, but I just wondered if there's anything out there that might be, you know, possibly lurking that it's hit or miss, whether it'll.
no major project that I know of at this point, so.
Okay.
Right now, we're, not looking at any. Unless you have something.
I didn't have sauerkraut for New Year's, so something could be lurking.
Every time something goes wrong, I blame it on him.
The budgetary reserve and that policy, actually, that's something I've been trying to get the board to deal with for 4 years now. That policy was implemented and I was a board member at that time. And the figure of 2% seemed not unreasonable. But as I matured, I realized that this budgetary reserve, when you put it in, it goes in as a line item expense. And if you don't have expenses linked to it, you're asking for revenue against a line item that you don't really intend to spend. So if you're looking to raise taxes, a lot of times budgetary reserve, you shouldn't base the need for a tax increase to fund budgetary reserve. And I think I really would like the board to address the policy so that our business manager isn't under the constraints that she feels she needs to put in this oftentimes arbitrary number. Now, there are times where there's an item that for some reason does not want to be included in the regular budget, but it's anticipated it's going to be an expense. And that would be perhaps a reason to justify a budgetary reserve item, that you think you're going to have that expense, but it may not materialize. I believe in this year's budget, we really should go to zero on that for the budgetary reserve. And I base a lot of my, I guess, premise on the fact that our unassigned fund balance is extremely healthy. If you were to look at the guidelines for an unassigned fund balance, 5 to 8% of your projected expense is a good figure to have as in reserve, which is the fund balance. Well, if you did that, we would look to have a fund balance, an unassigned fund balance of somewhere $2.6, $2.8 million. We're at 5.2. We're at a point where we really need to be looking at the excess money we're keeping now in general fund. And the only way it gets there is if on a given year, we don't spend the revenue that comes in. And it goes into as an excess fund balance then. So and I shouldn't say our administration has been doing a terrific job of keeping our budget intact. And in the sense that we don't have a lot of unexpected expenses. And every year they go through a process internally to justify the need for the expense in the next year. And they'll eliminate unneeded expenses in an effort to keep that expenditure side as low as possible. So looking at the last 5 years, not including our current year, we almost always had a positive fund balance at the end of the year, and that just got added in. And so over this 5 years, we've seen that fund balance now to a point where it's almost double what it really needs to be. And so I know one of the things we're considering is moving money from that fund balance into the capital reserve, which is an excellent move. And we've done that. Was it last year or 2 years ago, Brandy? Last year, we moved $1 million from the fund balance over to capital reserve. If we hadn't done that, we'd be looking at an unassigned fund balance of over $6 million. Now, eventually you get to a point where this fund balance is so high that you got to question, how come you're raising taxes? How come you're not using revenue, and in some cases tax money, you've already accumulated? Well, the argument or the rationale oftentimes is you don't want to spend that money on a reoccurring cost. Because it's going to be there next year. So if you spend it out of your reserve, then, and you don't have new revenue to match up next year, you're going to spend out of your reserve again. Well, I think we have one of the largest buffers I've experienced since I've been on the school board. And I really think that that large of a buffer should be considered as a reserve for us. And where we're looking at, if we don't put in any budgetary reserve, which I already explained is actually considered a cost, so we're eliminating that cost. Then we have a budget deficit of about 550,000. Well, I think if we need some portion of that for unexpected costs, it can easily be drawn from the general fund. And even though it may end up be a recurring cost, we can look in the subsequent years to build that recurring cost back in to the revenue side by having small tax increases to handle it. But certainly we can avoid any large tax increase in the future because we do have such a large fund balance. So I'm advocating this year that we have no tax increase. And if we need the funds, we're going to take it out of our reserve, which is our unassigned fund balance. And I do believe that a certain amount of these potential costs come up would be costs that may be one time. And as such, that one-time cost is a reason why you would use your unassigned fund balance, because it isn't going to be there the next year. The only danger in using that fund balance is where you're using it to constantly match up against a reoccurring cost. And right now, our reoccurring costs are basically covered by the revenue that we're being projected to come in for next year. And although you don't like to count on it, I do believe that with the Democratic governor, I think that the school systems are going to see some sort of revenue enhancement. And so even if it's only 200,000-300,000 more in next year than we have in this year, that's going to go against that 550,000 we're looking at as deficit and cut that in half. So for my line of thought, that means we're likely to draw even less from that unassigned fund balance, which again means that we can either consider next year or even this year moving additional funds from that unassigned fund balance into the capital reserve. Now, the capital reserve is a place, we're looking to build that fund up because we're not sure yet what we're going to do with our elementary schools. And that decision is going to fall on the next board. It's not going to happen in this school year. May not happen in the next school year because it's enrollment figures that now is the driver in a lot of this. If we see declining enrollment, which is the trend now, we may get to a point where we can actually house all of our students in one building, not in two, and not have to do an expansion. If we don't have to do that, the need for much, if any, money in capital reserve goes away. I think I've about covered all the bases that I would want to cover.
Can I
Any
make
discussion?
a couple comments?
Pardon?
Can I make a couple comments?
Yes, you may.
All right, so that's why I did provide the bottom line there because typically we have not budgetary reserve. So just to show you, what it could probably come in at so that you have that idea. But I disagree with not having a budgetary reserve. I think we do need to have it because if we do have a large expense, that could cause us to go in and have to reopen our budget. And I don't think that's something we really want to do. I think planning on not using it and having it in there and making our decision on what we want as a tax increase or no tax increase based on the amount minus the budgetary reserve is a better way of tackling it, just so we have that in there for the safety net, but we're not planning on it and we're not planning using it. It's just there, and that's why the other line is provided just in case, we do have one of those emergencies come up and we do have to use some of it. We don't have to go through a whole budget process to have something take place.
So what, 150,000 in budgetary reserve?
I would leave it at the 2%.
150,000, okay, now you're looking at a $700,000 deficit. Still very manageable out of the unassigned fund balance.
But if you listen to what I'm saying plan your budget based on there being no budgetary reserve. But have it in there. So you can plan, okay, if you say no increase, that's gonna show a deficit of 1.2 million. Okay, but we know we're probably gonna come in closer to maybe 500, 550. So you would plan that way, but you would leave it in there for the just in case. Then you don't have to go back and reopen your budget later on. If something major happens and we need to spend $200,000 or $300,000, we're gonna have to go back in and reopen our budget to give us money to go ahead and do that.
When you say reopen the budget, I guess I'm confused by that.
I've never done it. I only know that
You
you've heard about it. So I don't know a lot about it.
can't access the unassigned fund balance without reopening your budget.
You're not supposed to.
Okay, you're not supposed to.
I don't know how much trouble we get in, okay? I'd have to do some more research on it. But that's why I would recommend just leaving it there, but plan, as you're sitting here planning what you want to do with the millage rate for next year, just pretend it's not there. That's why I provided that line so that you had a great visual on, what you are looking for.
But Dale, I think Dale, what it comes down to is if there was an expense and it was a one-time expense, essentially we'd end up funding the using the fund balance to pay for that. It is really, it's a matter of moving the numbers. I think what we really want to talk about is millage. And I, I can, if there's a year we're going to be able to do it, I think the zero mills is not high risk. And I agree. I only have one concern, and that is that with the security protocols we've put in place and the staffing, that needs funded. And I'd be afraid that if we had a zero mill increase, that there'd be temptation to not fund that. And I just believe that has to be funded at some point.
Dave, it's
So-
already been funded. And in our current budget year, we again budgeted no increase from the state, and we got 250,000 more from the state. So that's revenue that's coming in. And I'll look at, and I'll put that right against the line item cost, for our security.
Okay.
And so, and it's a recurring revenue. So it's going to be there in this year. It's not like we have to have new.
Okay.
And I just want to add to what Dale says. We have over 5.5 million in our fund balance. The 8% that the state says of your budget can be in the fund balance. That's a little over 2.5 million. So we have an excess over the 8% of almost $3 million. So I have to agree with Dale, a zero increase in tax and use the fund balance. And the chances are, we're not gonna have to use $1.2 billion because every year we come in under. My next question is, Brandy, what areas have you looked at to trim costs?
We have been going through bids. Our budget this year is only a 2.31% increase over last year. And our wages, our contracts are, I don't remember what the teachers was this year, but they're 2.5%, 3%. And so we have, Joe has worked with some of the people that he works with to get locked in at the same rates we're at. So we're not seeing the inflation cost so much. We're very lucky in this budget, like with inflation being at 8%. But Joe's got a lot of our contracts locked in at almost even. Some of the expenses, though, we have in tech that have had a significant increase, such as our phone lines, what that came out to $256 more a month. So we are looking around at everything. The principals have went through and looked at what's necessary, and I hound them all the time. My question to them is, and they probably really get tired of me saying it, is it a want or is it a need? And is it a want or is it a need? And, you know, we go through impact statements, and look at, okay, what can we put in here? What do we absolutely have to put in here? And what is something, if we can find some money that we would like to have that would really benefit a large amount of students? So it is a process that we go through, and we went through that process early on this year. What has been coming in that dictates a lot of our costs are the IU contract that just came in, and the bids, I believe, were fairly reasonable too last year. So we're not seeing that 8% cost of living increase in our budget yet. So I don't know when we'll see it, if we'll see it. But that's where it's come in here right now.
I think I'd like to not detour for a second, just address the topic. We have increased the unassigned fund balance considerably over the last 2.5 years, and to make real clear, there's no possible way 2.5 to 3 million came from tax revenue. That's not where it came from tax revenue, but it wasn't local revenue. The COVID grants that came into the district were around $4.5 million. With those grants, we were allowed to supplant operating expenses. So we took portions of salaries and other operating expenses and paid for them with grant money. Well, that funding was in our budget. So what did we have? We had an increasing fund balance because we were using grant money to pay for recurring expenses. It was perfectly legal. That's the way the Fed said you could do it. We know it's bad business practice, but that's what they said we could do. And so every school did that. So we have this huge fund balance that some portion is going to go to capital account at some point, I suspect. But there are other ways we're trying to, spend it wisely, if I can say it that way. So that's where that money came from, and it's in a way it's a problem. It's a good problem, but it's a bad problem. So.
If we bring this fund balance down to the 8% that the state requires, which would leave in excess of almost 3 million. If you take that 1.2 million and subtract off that, we'd still be transferring 1.7 million out over to capital reserve.
Yeah.
So,
So you're saying, let's move 1.7 million over to capital and leave it at no increase.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I know it's going to get moved at some point. So if it's this year, that's fine by me. Brandy, are you okay with that move? Is that doable?
And if
That's doable.
if
I've been telling you guys for a couple of years now
but
that we need to move it.
if need be, that 1.2 million can be put to balance the budget.
Right.
And that leaves 1.7 to move over to capital reserves, and we'd still have the 8% in the fund balance.
Yeah,
That's
and
what you'd like to do.
the 8%.
That's what I'd like to do.
The 8% Ron refers to
Is
is
that what you'd like to do?
it's a piece of.
And that would also give you your 300 and some $1,000 for your committed.
As far as the 8% Ron refers to, there's a state regulation that it gives this tiered effect on how much districts based on your revenues. You should have this percent in your unassigned fund balance, and it's scaled. And there probably isn't any schools in the state who follow that, to be honest. So it's a guideline. It's a guideline document, if you will. It's treated that way. It makes sense, but
Dave, to put it exact, it's actually 8% of what your budget is. It's
yeah.
it's not just your revenue or your,
No, yeah, you're
it's
right.
what your budget is.
Yeah,
for
yes.
All your revenue.
Yes. Yeah, agree.
Dale, what, do you like that idea?
I think it's a little bit much to move over the capital reserve all in 1 year. Just because to me, it's kind of, unless we know we absolutely have a project that we're gonna be doing. As Dale said, we may not need to do anything with the element.
We would definitely need to renovate.
We need to do.
It-
Well, we
There will
don't-
be even consolidation of schools will have a problem.
Yes. And we always have roofs that need to be fixed. We have boilers that are going bad. We have,
And
there's-
that's why we have it.
yes, that's what I'm saying. So it won't just go there and be wasted. It's going to be need to be used in the next couple of years. No matter, right. And Valley's needed for something. We want air conditioners in these schools. I mean, that's, that was over 10 million, I believe. So it's going to be used.
Question. If I'm remembering correctly. It wasn't last month's meeting, it was before, maybe the first budget talk. You're projecting that in our current year, 22-23, we're gonna have a fund balance.
Yes, we're gonna have a surplus.
And it was pretty significant what you thought at one time. But
I don't have a clear number on it because it's a
Okay.
lot of COVID stuff moving in and
but you're
out.
very
And
confident there's going to be.
there'll be
Yeah.
a surplus.
I
yes.
guess I would just be a little hesitant of moving so much over right away. I would like to see, where our the 22-23 year comes out. So looking at, once we see that audit in the fall, November-ish.
January.
January.
We'll be gone, Dale.
Okay. I'll be back. And ask that question and ask the new board, with which there's still 4 carryovers here. But I just have to convince one new one. But I guess I'm being conservative there. Maybe not moving the
But
1.7.
if you're gonna have more, that's gonna be added to it, why wait?
Oh, right.
I
I mean,
agree. I like
Why
the
wait?
idea, 1.7, but and I'm
That's
willing to
still
roll the
leaving-
dice based on what Dale said, a zero mil increase. If he gives me the confidence that the security funding's in there, then I'm comfortable.
And you will certainly have a project coming down the road. And the more you have in capital, the less you have to borrow.
Exactly.
And we don't need to borrow any additional money. So
Money's expensive
it
right
would
now,
be wise,
very expensive.
if we could do a project with cash. That would be better than going out and trying to borrow. So it would not be. It's not dangerous to move that much at one time.
Randy, could you bring us a?
I'm putting down the table here, as I was going down this way, and I know, Dottie, do you have anything else, Dottie?
With 0 mil increase. I don't know.
Yeah, he said it, he told me real quietly. So he was right there.
It sounds good for all the people that aren't gonna be here next year. It's my concern.
Dave, if I was coming back next year, I would not be changing it.
Not from the podium.
Yeah, Dale will be out there
Yeah, I'm gonna be out there and I'm gonna be asking some
That's my
questions.
concern. What,
I think-
when we talked about the reoccurring expenses for the security and what that would do and how that would come on the following year. Does that not come into play now with?
It will happen when we do have, some money built in there when you look at that budgetary reserve being in. That's why a big piece of me says, leave it in there. My biggest concern with a no increase is if inflation stays this high. We're good with electric right now, but it could be the next year that we're going to see, and we're not locked in on oil prices, so the Valley oil prices are one thing that's going to be high. So that may need some of that budgetary reserve, maybe at most, 80,000. So it's. My biggest concern would be in the following year, that inflation coming at 8%. And really hitting us with our bids. I mean, we're very fortunate in what we've gotten back this year, and I'm really surprised, but it's a chance, it's a roll of the dice.
What do you see as being the worst case scenario that you may have to increase next year if you don't do it this year?
Might have to go to index next year.
Brandy,
You know, I can't tell you that until I see what this coming, like, I can do a 5-year look at it. But it's hard to really tell because, again, that inflation didn't hit us this year. 2.31% increase is
Brandy,
very low.
that,
I'm Spanish.
that word you keep using is one reason why we shouldn't do a tax increase. Because you're talking about the expenditures for a school district that inflation might hit. What about the community and inflation hitting the community?
It hit very hard in the grocery store.
It's not just the grocery store.
I'll tell you that much. I have 2 kids that eat like crazy, but
Yeah,
it's bad.
Yeah, and just think
Bad.
about the people that don't have a big income, what they're dealing with.
Oh. That's why I'm asking you guys.
Well, with that being said, I'm not a proponent of raising taxes. That's not why I came on this board. I came on the board because of what was going on 2 years ago and to be fiscally responsible as I had been in my previous career. However, I'm not going to sacrifice myself this year and then fail next year because of something that we're not funding properly. That's my biggest concern. And I keep going back to the 0.3 mil increase that we talked about to fund the new positions. And if we didn't fund them, it would be if we went to 0, then it would be 0.66 the following year to catch up. And I don't really want to do a 0% tax increase this year and then be saddled with a 0.66 next year with a brand new board.
Dave, I guess, I thought I explained the 0.3, that's about 2.4, 2.5, 250,000. And this current year budget, we saw revenue from the state that is close to that we didn't count on, that is close to that figure. So in essence, that money now, which is a revenue stream that's going to be there next year, covers that cost for our security. Next year, the only cost will be whatever raise we're giving the security. You know, it's not like we got to come up with an additional, 240, 250,000. That money's there in the budget now, and it's an ongoing one. So I wouldn't have.
So what is the number
concern.
that we're getting from the state then?
Right now, it was,
No, for next year.
No,
we don't
We don't
know.
know. And that's what I'm saying.
but
I would bet on a Democratic governor that you're gonna see.
Yeah.
Before.
Dave, you gotta remember that the money that school district get, there's the Hold Harmless Act where you never will get less than you got the previous
That's
year.
only the old money. That's not the new
Right,
money that
right.
runs through the formula, and all new money runs through formula. So that's the old money,
Right.
which
but
is
most
a
of
lot
it
less.
runs through the old.
About 160 of ours does not, 160,000 does not.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm just
Most of
saying,
it
there's
goes through the old
160 that
formula.
does not run through the old
And
formula.
it's under the Hold Harmless Act.
Yes, the 600 and some is through that.
At the IU meeting, they gave us updates, and I guess as of March, the governor's proposal was a 7.8% for the basic education.
That's an overall, yes.
So,
It's different by each school district. So.
That's 7.8 total across the state for the
Yeah.
education budget itself.
Just the basic education. fund,
And-
then there's like special.
And traditionally, what's proposed is never what we get. It's always less. So that's why you can't count on it. So we did survey across the county to see what everyone was doing. One business manager put in the whole thing because that's what the board wanted. Another business manager put in 40% of what they're proposing. And everyone else budgeted based on what we are currently receiving. So that's the best practice. So then you're doing the same practice year after year after year after year. So changing your practice does not help you. It harms you because sometimes you don't get what they're saying. So. Yeah, so there is potential for us to get more. You know, if we get 500,000 from the state or something, that would take it right down. Okay, I am on to Joe. Mr. Dr. LeBron.
I hear what Dave's saying, also, you know, this is the roll of the dice. And, you know, my nature would say, you know, maybe it's somewhere in the middle of the road, you're like 0.1 or 0.2 if you're gambling. You know, I can't, like any of the rest of it, can't predict what's going to happen. So, you know, I hear the arguments and, you know, the only thing I can say is it's somewhere in the middle of that.
I guess it's easier being an outgoing board member. I think the plan that Ron and Dale are proposing makes sense.
So. 6 are saying no increase. And moving 1.7 million over to the capital account. And my 2 gentlemen over here in the corner are thinking. It might be better to have a little increase.
Correct.
Okay,
Randy. And only moving 1.7 million over would leave you that 359,000 and you're committed.
yes,
And that would cover, if need be, what they are worried about. It would more than cover.
no,
That's-
it's committed for Peasers.
Yeah.
It's been committed for years. It's committed for Peasers increases.
Yeah. That's it.
This coming year.
Is in the 23-24.
Yeah,
I'm
coming year.
sorry.
Okay.
Yes, then, but in the next budget, we may need to use some of that Peasers to offset that increase. So,
We haven't.
No.
I can only recall maybe 1 or 2 budgets out of 20 years
so,
since that was set aside. So again, administration has done a great job of budgeting.
so, unless someone reaches out to me and says that they really want to have an increase, it looks like I am going to prepare something with no increase. And I'm also going to bring you a motion to move 1.7 million over into the capital reserve account. All right. One last thing I would like to say, and I'm going to steal some of Mr. Hanner's thunder here probably. There's a very special retirement on this agenda this evening. That I've had the opportunity to work very close to this person for the last 11 years here. And was my go-to for anything and everything special ed, and a great person just to have around. And I'm sad to see Gina leave, but she has put in her retirement and she will be deeply missed. And I wanted to get it out there because we have spent so much time together over the last 11 years, and she has some big shoes to fill because there's a lot of work that gets done in that special education office every day. So we wish her the best of luck. So that's all I have for the business manager's report.
With that, we'll move on to the superintendent's report. By way of that report, we'll go around the room and see how our administration is doing. So, Mr. Farrar, talk to us.
I yielded my time as a businessman now. I want to bring. No. Again, we're wrapping up the year as everybody is. The kids did a great job with the PSAs. But they're in, summarizing the things they've learned this year, and of course, celebrations and traditions like field trips and special events, and like Friday night, out for dinner, come to the spring fling, the food trucks around there, they're great times. We wrap up our year with that. A concert on Monday for the fourth graders who they did it in the wintertime out of necessity because of the maternity leave. They combined and do this. We have had a second grade student who's been battling cancer, and she cancer free.
Thank you. Mr. Myers.
We just finished up with the thing, a couple makeups going on right now. Keystone Algebra 1 coming up here in 2 weeks. If you look at all the events that are coming up at McCall, it seems like every day. If you recall earlier in the year, we raised thousands of dollars for the end of the year events for our 5th to 8th grade. So we have fun days set up for that. So thank you to the community for doing that, and that's our building budget for any of those funds. And again, we're having Taco Bills for everyone this year. So we thank Taco Bills for supporting us. And then next week we have the band and chorus concerts at McCall, and we just have a lot of fun activities coming up. And looking forward to the last day of 8th graders. We have an awards assembly for them, and excited to see them move on to their next journey.
Mr. King.
Yeah, I will.
All right, Mr. Blaze, how are you?
No, pretty much what Mr. Farrar said, PSSA are finishing up, teacher appreciation week this week. Can't thank all the teachers enough. Tomorrow is Nurses Day, Appreciation Day. I know, being at our school, that goes way above and beyond, for all being a nurse, so I just wanted to give her a shout out. Field trip being planned for the end of the year, and then pretty much on the echo Mr. Farrar, we have our Valley Festival Saturday night at the Baptist Church on 87. And 7 food truck games, tractor ride, live music. Come on out and just have some fun. Saturday night.
Thank you. Oh, Mr. Johnson.
All right, I defer to Mr. King. No, we April 29th, we wrapped up. We had our prom, which is fabulous. The kids had a great time. Last week, we had our choral concert here at the high school. Monday night, we had our band concert here as well. And, at the high school, we're finishing up AP testing, rolling into Keystones next week. And then, the big push to graduation and all the trapping and event attached to that. We've gone through a lot of interview processes to fill some big shoes as well. And some of those folks here tonight, so we're excited to introduce those to you. But on top of that, I want to echo what Mr. Blaze said and again reiterate the thanks for our teachers and all they do. a week is not enough, but they do the heavy lifting, and we're indebted to what they do for our kids and the relationships that they build with them. So want to end with that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hanner.
Yeah, as the school year is winding down, we're also starting to prepare for next school year in the special ed department. So I wanted to thank Wendy Baker, our school psychologist, and Joy Snyder, our speech therapist. They have been going out to early intervention classrooms and preschools around the area and evaluating our 13 students that are transitioning from early intervention services to school aid services for the upcoming school year. This has been a lot of extra time on their part because it is so many students that they are working with. And they're also scheduling meetings so we can make sure that those students have the most appropriate services that they need to start off the school year and come to Forestville School District. So thank them for all their extra work with that. And then also I wanted to thank our special education teachers. They have been working closely together, collaborating school tours, meet and greet with teachers and guidance counselors as students are going from transitioning from one school building to another school building the upcoming school year. So they've been spending a lot of time doing that. I just want to let them know that I appreciate all the hard work they're doing into transitioning to for the upcoming school year, and also to let folks know that I, as well as the other administrators, to let parents know that we will be around over the summertime. So if students or parents need any kind of individual support of their new school, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to set up something so that they can have an additional tour. And then also what Randy said, yes, Gina Guvari is such a great loss to our district here. She started when I was a teacher at the high school here, and kind of it's been nice for me to kind of come back and work closely with her these last couple of years. She is one of the special education secretaries that, as new special education secretaries are hired in the school district, Gina's is the number that they all have on speed dial so that you call her, because she really is one of the experts in our area in special education. So thank her for her many years of service for us.
Thank you. Mrs. Albert.
Do a little extra, a lot extra. Also want to point out that we had a student come in first place with the County South Market game out of 211 students in the County again. So Matt Williamson, he received first place, so that's a cool thing. Builders Club last week, I got to go along with some of them to food packing and for their food first.
Thank you. Joe, Sebastian, anything for the good of the order?
The only thing I'll say is, the tech department has been short one person recently. And on top of this, got back from some pre-scheduled vacation time. And I'd like to kind of give a shout out to our tech facilitator, Aaron Opel, who's been keeping things afloat, kind of on his own a lot lately. And he's really been really crushing it and keeping things moving. So I appreciate that. I want to give him a shout out.
And he heard it.
Yeah.
He's got a T-shirt on that says "I heart Runkles."
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move on to.
I'll add, sorry to have more time, but
I forgot who you were. I'm sorry.
Just, I appreciate Pastor Leland's comments here tonight. We are well aware, but that is a small fraction of our professional staff. We do appreciate what the teachers do for the district and this community as a whole. They are used to, in high school, the world-class 9 through 12 faculty. I can now safely say K to 12. We are a world-class organization. They are professional. They are personal, and they give our kids their best effort every day. Not a perfect science, what we do. We misstep once in a while, But overall, what we provide our kids in this district is phenomenal, and I am blessed to be a part of that and leading a group like this. So we appreciate our teachers, and of course, I appreciate our administration every day. So with that said, that's all I have.
Okay,
Thank you.
well said, okay. And with that, we'll move on to the agenda items and looking at the general items, I believe we can group all of those items together unless anybody would like to separate one of those. We have G1 through G5. So unless you see a basis, cause, or need to separate it, I'll, when you're ready, I'll ask for a motion to approve G1 through G5.
Motion to approve.
Yeah, any questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's have it. Go on to personnel. We'll separate P1, but I do believe we can put P2 through P8 together. So
Can you do P8 separate as well?
we will do P8 separately. So P1 separated. P8 is separated. So we're looking at P2 through P7. We have move to some.
Which one? Sorry,
Well,
which one are we?
yeah,
going
we're gonna,
Are you gonna do P1
we'll
first?
start with P1
Yeah.
first, yeah. So was that,
I'll,
okay, all right, we have a motion on P1. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's have it. All right, so now we're looking at P2 through P7.
then make a motion.
Any technical question of any kind, obviously personnel related is place, but technically.
I would like to also express my well wishes to Gina. I think she's also been a wonderful face for the district office in the sense that that's who you see when you come in through the front door. And it's just always upbeat, very personable, and I know her technical expertise is beyond compare. And she's really gonna be missed, and I hope maybe she'll be around long enough to train her. Or have her on speed dial.
Board, I believe, well, we all had an email that the name P7 is Hannah McCracken, not Hannah McQuill, and that correction came around and the reprinted agendas that were handed out tonight at the table back there have the correct name, so that is Hannah McCracken, P7. All right, and I guess for Mrs. Shoemaker, thanks for coming back and congratulations on your retirement later this year, so.
And Mr. Hipper.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yes, we've got some folks that are willing to stand in the gap, if you will, for us on certain circumstances, and we appreciate them doing that. It is a big, huge, help. So P2 through P7. I guess we had the
We have the
we had the motion. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And P8. The additions to the professional staff.
Motion to approve.
Second. Any technical question of any kind? I say technical as in non-personnel. Okay, all right, hearing nothing, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Have it.
And Olivia is here in the audience. You want to stand up, Olivia? Congratulations.
You didn't tell her she had to come to the podium and tell us all about herself.
No. But Jack, she's phys ed, so. Welcome, Olivia. Becca, Lundy is here as well. And you need to turn around and face the camera because somebody in Vegas is tuning in.
Oh, that's cool.
So, welcome aboard. I just want to let the board know that hiring process this year, it's really back to I call them the old days, really before the building project, so not that old. We had tons of applicants. The shortage, we did not experience here. The only concern at this point, the biggest concern is elementary counselor. We had plenty of applicants. We had 2 finalists. They both withdrew at the same time, so that one we've re-advertised, and we are getting some applications in. But it is, we're back on the market. People are looking at us again as a overall, the district is the place to be, Mr. Myers. So welcome to our new hires and thank you.
Board, I am officially old. We've just hired one of my former elements.
Okay. Moving right along, the transportation T1 approval of the promised land busing rates, as you see the numbers there listed. Do you have a motion? Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Have it. And for academics, A1 approval for graduation of those members of the senior class of 2023 who will have met all state and district requirements as of June 1, 2023. We have 133 potential graduates as of May 9, 2023. Special days for senior class as follows: awards ceremony June 7, 2023, and commencement June 8, 2023. So approval on A1. Second. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Have it. And then moving to budget and finance, BF1, approval to award some bids. You see the paper supplies and athletic supplies and those amounts listed. We have a motion. We have echo there. We have a motion in a second. Any questions on that? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And that concludes our agenda items. And with that, we'll go to other reports, the committee reports, and Dr. Mather, will walk us through that.
Sure, I don't have anything new for PSBA. Policy committee, Dr. Quinn. Okay. You, Dr. Boone.
I guess the one interesting thing is they give reports, so appreciate your teachers, and I'm glad to hear that our hiring. The number of teacher certs given from 2013 to this year have decreased 68% in Pennsylvania, from 16,000 a year to 5,100 a year. So let's treat our teachers well. That's all.
LCTC.
Nothing different than last time we spoke to you. We meet next Thursday, so we'll have more information in June.
Okay. Mr. Alma, Memorial Garden,
Nothing more to report. Thank you.
anything more on the budget?
I think I said enough.
Mr. Young, one personal Sunday.
We'll have a booth at the spring, fling, the 12th and 13th, and we'll also be supplying some sidewalk chalk. Thanks to Mrs. Breon for the kids to do some art on the pavement.
Will they be, when you have the booth, are they soliciting funds or what are they doing?
That I cannot answer.
Okay. The job isn't here for building and ground. Extracurricular, Mr. Badger. Okay, that's.
And with that, we'll move on to the second public comment section of the evening, and anybody in the room that wishes to come forward and speak to us, let us know. Well, we know who this is. And we even know where he lives now.
Yeah, maybe. I just jot some things down as I come. I'm not prepared, like I could be, but I think I'm prepared enough. I gave a picture over at school, I think to that lady that's retiring. I never really knew, I knew her as Gina. I didn't know her last name. It was a picture of the intermediate units. I'm not sure what I know what intermediate units was. But it was professionally framed and it was from Lewisburg. So you must know it was good. I hope that's still around here, maybe someplace. Whatever good it looks, if it doesn't look good, it looks good hanging on the wall.
It's in the district office, Tom.
Okay, yeah. And then I'd like to say, we used to have a library when I was in school now. They used to have books that the kids could go in there and read. I don't know if you still have that. You think I could make it up the steps? Okay, all right, okay. They had books how do you, now you get them in the summertime when you don't have school? Or do you just get them for when you have school? Just the whole school year, counting the summer? No, okay, that's good. All right, we had Jet, Reader's Digest, Life, PA Game News, National Geographic, Sports Illustrated, and I guess the National Geographic had to have things cut out of them back then. Yeah, whatever. Then I'd like to see, I mean, it could never come back, but we had the #1 May Day in the county. The first one and the premier one and whatever else, and it was tremendous. All right. I don't know if anybody remembers it, but I want to bring this up. I don't know the 2 elementary school teachers, Mike Sill and the lady girls phys ed teacher got grants, got those bicycles. Are they out at your place or your place?
They were, Jack.
Pardon me?
We knew them for a while and then we ended up doing it.
Okay, that's good. I was gonna say, Mike, he wanted out at the Valley School, build a place to put the bikes. I don't know if that ever came about or you had a place to put them.
No, we had started doing. Yeah, eventually they used that for a while, before they started, when they're still in good shape, donating the family.
That sounds good. I mean, yeah. And I noticed that I think your school, I noticed Jason Cott. I was waiting for the bus on Montour Street and he led the kids down the alley and there was road guards and everything else. I don't know. They were touring the old high school / elementary school where I went. And then the old library used to be across the street from that catty corner from the school. I don't know if he toured that. And Mrs. Stark's building, my kindergarten teacher, her place is tore down, but Mrs. Fleckinger's place is still there. That's where the school was and so on. I don't know if that's what they were doing. I don't know what they were doing.
Third graders from both schools every year do a walking historical tour of the town.
Yeah, that's.
And a lot of businesses, folks around.
They seemed like they were having a good time. And then, okay. And then I brought that picture over the Indians. The Indians, I'd like to see that displayed possibly. And the Indians, helped us in World War II. They couldn't decode the Indians' language. He couldn't decode that. So that's they were very important to us in the war. And I'd like to say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So that's why I brought those pictures to the school and that. And I don't know if I mentioned that my gym teacher, one of them was a big time football player and a big time coach. And he says this gym class might save your life someday. So I believe him, coming from him. And he was big time. That's about all I see, but I wish we'd get something so some person like myself could find out Now, I wouldn't say I'd be going to all this stuff, but there's no place for me unless comes from word of mouth that I know what's going on at this school. I mean, I don't know if well, my car's been down off and on for years, whatever. But I don't know if they had a message board right over on Mulberry Street where they could, turn it on and turn it off. I know I always, when I was doing the message board out on Arch Street, I was always complimenting our senior athletes or who's going to states in wrestling or track and field and, or whatever. And now I see nothing. I mean, I went to senior day at the girls softball and senior day at the boys baseball. And there was no publicity really out on it. I just heard from word of mouth. And if it could, I'm not saying I would drive down Mulberry Street every day or something, but I mean, I don't know. For me, and I could still ride the bus over to the baseball and softball fields. And I go to this stuff and I enjoy seeing, and they really do it upright. If you would see the stuff that the parents did for the kids, unbelievable. I know my mom, when I was basketball, she got a little thing. I'm a parent of number 14. That was it. It was a cutout from art class. So, but they do it up good now, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, girls, boys basketball. So they're doing a tremendous job. Everybody.
Thanks, Jack.
Jack, do you have the internet?
What's that?
Do you have the internet, Jack?
No.
Man,
I'll give you a can.
no. You get the internet and I'll get you one of these little portable message boards.
I don't have
Okay, is there anybody else in the room here who would like to approach the podium and speak to us? Okay, not seeing anybody, we are going to entertain our first online guest. This is a Montoursville High School grad of 88, and although not a taxpayer resident, she has some kind words to say. And so I guess if the board's been indulged me to allow a special exception also to be able to test out our system. We've not done this yet. So here we did it once. Oh. So it's Jenna, I'm gonna hit the allow to talk button and let's see if this goes. Go ahead, Jenna.
Hello. Test 1, 2.
Yeah, Jenna, I'm gonna try to shift this over to the correct speaker. Just hang on for a second.
Okay.
What do you think? The restaurant? All right, Jenna, this should work now.
Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2, 3, 4.
Good, yes.
Well, my name is Jennifer Lunt. I am a 1988 graduate of Montoursville High School. And I never thought I would be tuning in for a school board meeting in Pennsylvania whilst living out here in Las Vegas. But I'm glad I did tonight. It was great to hear from Mr. Huff. It's been quite a few years since I sat in his mythology class. But the highlight of my evening was getting to see my niece, Rebecca Lundy, approved as secondary education English teacher hire. And I'm so proud for her. I'm so happy for you guys that you're getting a very enthusiastic educator. And it's nice to know that the future is very, very bright in Montoursville, Pennsylvania, just as it always has been. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Okay, Jen, thank you for calling in.
I think we're on time, Dave.
3, 7, if we count the lawyer. Yes, we'll count the lawyer.
Got to, we're paying them. Gotta count them.
Yeah, no, attendees, 7. Okay. With that, no other hands being raised that I can see. So with that, we'll close that portion of the meeting. And I guess now we're approaching adjournment. Before we do that, I would like to say it is Nurses Week, and I'm married to one of them. So I guess I should say something. Thank you to the nurses in the district for what they do. No, trust me, she knows better. So to the nurses in our district and you know, thank you for what you do, for the care you provide for you know, the health risk it poses to you sometimes. So thank you for what you do. Joe's wife, yeah, thank you. So, all right, with that, Joe.
My wife is a teacher too, so I just want to go on better.
Good for the
State fan.
Okay, enough of that now. All right. Anything else that we need to know, board, anything critical? Are we ready for adjournment? If that's the case, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Opposed? Have it, meeting is adjourned.
Thank you every day, Joe.